Check one, check one, check one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yo, we back with another episode, another installment of the Disrupt or Die podcast.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Kill or be killed, that's the world we live in. Only the strong, they survive, the weak, they tend to give in. Take your effort to the max and multiply that by 10. See the greatness in your mind before it even begin. It's a race to the pinnacle, mind, body, and spiritual. For sure we bout that action, ain't talking about what we finna do. This is an instant classic from the intro to the interludes. Plotting on the fall of another, your soul is pitiful. It's 4th and 1, goal line, get it by any, no compromise. Running through anything if they ain't an outlier. Got tunnel vision, sharper than the eagle's eye. You already know what we do. Going live is disrupt or die. What? Look, you already know what we do. Going live is disrupt or die. What? Yeah, all bars, no fluff. Word to Matty J, live from the cuts. Yeah, yeah, look, from the basement to your city, we get litty. Them dogs on the hunt. Look, take the pot and multiply when it's disrupt or die.
I want to welcome you all back. Man, if you're tuned in, whether it's AM, whether it's PM, whether you're at home, whether you're in the car, man, I truly appreciate you for sticking in with me, for locking in with me for this little bit of time. So hopefully I can share this value with you, share what's on my mind. You know, I love coming and having these conversations and doing this podcast. And it's just me just talking, just getting stuff off my chest, man. And I truly appreciate it that you really took the time out to listen to me just ramble for a little bit, um and I hope you're doing well. I hope whoever's listening to this, I hope you're having a wonderful day, evening. I hope all your goals and dreams are being manifested right now. Man, thank you so much. I gotta start off by apologizing though. Yeah, I gotta apologize. I've been doing you all a disservice. I've been doing you all a disservice. So when I started the podcast, I was super excited. I was like, I'm venturing into doing something that I haven't done before, that I've always wanted to. I have all this information, all these ideas. I just want to share with the world. The philosophy is disrupt or die. We're going to disrupt the world, disrupt our lives. We're going to disrupt industries. But I failed you. Yes, I did. I realized I didn't prepare you mentally. Like, I was prepared mentally. I mean, this is what I've been living. But I'm like, I did not prepare my listeners mentally. Like, mentally to receive this information, mentally to receive this content, these conversations. It's not for the weak-minded. Like, these conversations are for people who are really ready to go out here and be disruptive, right? The disrupt or die mindset is all about having the mental fortitude to manifest your dreams. Like, and that takes a lot. That's not for someone who is easily mentally manipulated, who is mentally weak. That's not what this is for. I mean, if that's who you are, I mean, you aren't going to last long. I mean, if you're here now and that's where your mindset is, I mean, I don't see you hanging on for too much longer, because this information, these conversations are going to be too powerful. They're going to be out of your mental tax bracket, right? So I apologize. I truly, truly apologize. But I hope we're able to make it up with this episode. I truly do. Because I can't continue to let you guys down. I can't. I'll be doing you guys such a disservice. I don't want to waste your time. So if you can please forgive me, I truly, truly appreciate it. I truly appreciate it. And it won't happen again, I promise. So I want to share something with you guys. So anyone who's interested in like wealth building, attaining riches. And as an avid reader, you've heard of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's such an amazing read. I mean, if you haven't read that book, I highly, highly suggest you go read that book. I mean, there are so many hidden gems, and it really prepares you for what that journey looks like of getting wealthy, of living a fulfilled life. I mean, a lot of the principles of the disrupt or die mindset really come from that, subconsciously. Like, not that I bit off from it, but subconsciously, it comes from that book. And I mean, it's one of the best reads. I mean, anyone who's a reader and who's seeking information about wealth and that sort of information, I'm pretty sure you've come across it. But if not, just look up Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. So there's another version. It's the Think and Grow Rich, a black choice. So same book. It was actually reinterpreted or rewritten alongside Napoleon Hill by Dennis Kimbrough. And this book is geared towards speaking directly to black people, African Americans, on the topic of wealth, living a fulfilled life, purpose finding, stepping into your destiny. I mean, this book, I love Think and Grow Rich, but this version just took it to a whole new level. And even if you aren't black, like, this is still a really, really great book to read. There are a lot of gems in this book. Like, I've had this, it's crazy. So my dad actually had this book. I didn't know. He had it in a chest. I was cleaning out his garage one day, and I'm nosy. I go through stuff. So I'm just going through his stuff, and I open the chest. He had a boatload of books. So I end up seeing this one. I'm like, oh man, because my dad actually bought me the original Think and Grow Rich, and that's the book that I read all throughout college. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is cool. A black version. I'm black, so I figured I'd read it. Makes sense, right? But right from chapter 1, they really, really go in on this book. Like, man, some really, really great information. So I want to jump in and out of the book today. So I don't know if that's a little unconventional for podcast or speaking, but this is my podcast. I'm gonna do it the way I want to do. So, but I want to read something to you that's really going to set the base for what we're going to talk about today. And hopefully I won't have you too long. I mean, um, really talking about the mental aspect of things. We can go on and on forever, but I really want to get like straight to the point with it right today. I don't want to beat around the bush a lot. So let me read this excerpt from the book, and then we can sort of dive into the conversation a little bit from there. The human mind is the last great unexplored continent on earth. It contains riches, material and spiritual, beyond our wildest dreams. However, like a fertile field, the mind will return anything that we plant. Wow, right? Think about that. The mind will return anything that we plant, but it's also like unexplored. It's an unexplored content, or it's untapped land. So like when I read that, it just makes me feel like I'm not really like tapping into my full mental capacity. And I know I'm not. Right? Because I see examples every day. Like, I'm focused on like building businesses and starting new businesses, thinking of new streams of income, and taking care of my family. We just bought a house. Like, Elon Musk is talking about going to space. Right? Like, people are talking about leaving this planet. And we got people talking about, like, I can help you make 6 figures. Like, what? Like, There are no words for that. It lets me know like there are levels to this, like levels to thinking, levels to thought. You want to talk about disrupting? Like we're leaving Earth. No one's ever left Earth. Like this is all we know. But people are already planning and plotting to leave Earth. Like that's some next level thinking. Like we're starting clothing brands, and I'm not trying to talk down on anything because I have clothing brands in the works, but we're talking like jewelry and who has the most jewelry and like who has the most designer. And there are people like we're going to live on another planet. You want to talk about stun on a billion, trillion, gazillion? Living on another planet, that's next level. Next level. And if you look around, like, they're already in the process of making it happen. Like, there are companies that are already planning trips within the next few years to send people on trips to Mars. So, like, these things are happening, whether it's successful or not, like, it's happening. But what it makes me think of is, and not with just this, like, if we think of the great things of the world, right? We talk about like the Tesla, we talk about the iPhone, we talk about the internet, we talk about Wi-Fi, we talk about plant-based foods, or we talk about Amazon, we talk about like whatever. I'm just throwing stuff, whatever you think is great. It all, it wasn't always here, right? Somebody had an idea, just an idea, like it wasn't here at one point in time. Someone thought it and was like, I want to do this thing. If that doesn't show you the power of your thoughts, nothing will. Like, just think about that. Amazon, the biggest company in the world, was started by one person and he just had a thought. Not even crazy. Not even to have a company as big as Amazon, because it was like an online bookstore. So he just wanted to start this online bookstore. But it just shows you like when you fully invest in your thoughts and they start to pick up steam, it even further exceeds like what you initially imagined. Especially when you take the power of imagination and put it with extreme action. Like if that right there doesn't let you know like the seeds you plant with your mind manifest themselves in the physical. And that's not just for good either. The way logic works, there's good and there's bad. So if I can take a thought and manifest it into an Amazon, I can also take a thought and manifest it into poverty. Whoa. Bar. That's a big bar. And we're not talking about like systemic things, right? We know that there are certain systems in place that are geared to keeping certain groups of individuals stuck in poverty, poor, mass incarcerated. We know these things. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about generations after generations after generations after generations of being poor, of being on Section 8, on being on food stamps, of living in the projects or poor conditions. I don't want to say projects because people hear projects, they think of one group of people. I'm talking about poor, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, it doesn't matter. Like when you see generations of this, that's a mindset. Like mentally, we're poor. And negative thoughts, like when you think of it, they're poison. And it doesn't even take like a lot. Like it really is started with like probably one drop of negativity and it just permeated and spread throughout generations. But you can see in one generation, a thought can turn into the biggest company in the world. That's crazy. It even has me like thinking like I've been thinking too small. Ask yourself like, are you thinking big enough? Are we really dreaming big enough? Like what's capping and what's limiting our thoughts? Because there's people out here showing us that there are levels. You hear like in rap, like Meek Mill, is levels to this. Nah, bruh. Like that's physical. Like anybody can get money. Anybody can obtain riches, right? Anybody can get jewelry. Anybody can get cars. Like anybody can get that. Like you see average Joe Blow who was a lame in high school, who's not that attractive, not that talented, but they got money, they got cars. Like those things are not really hard to get, especially if you know how to work systems and you know you know the right people, you know how to maneuver the right way. You can get all these things. But the real level is this mental, this mental. So I was reading about Warren Buffett, right? I don't know, Warren Buffett's what, two, three, four, five richest person in the world. Until this day, he still reads 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day. This is one of the richest human beings in the entire world, but he still reads 8 hours a day. That lets you know he's realized the power of his thoughts. He understands that he has to continually strengthen his mind in order for the things in the physical form to be as prosperous and as great as possible. 8 hours a day, and I'm pretty sure he's not working 16-hour days, those long, long hours. That means if he's reading 8 hours a day, he's probably working like 2 max. And obviously, he's figured out if I strengthen my thought process, the way that I think, continue to educate myself, that strength, I can port it over to the work, and it's going to make my work super easy to where I only have to do so much work a day and then still make billions of dollars. Like, we have to fully change the way we're doing life here. Like, we really got to change the way we're doing life because we're out here losing, bro. We're out here losing. We're losing. And it's all mental. Everything is mental. Everything is mental. Yo, we out here losing, bro. We're out here losing. So, like, when I think of stories like Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, it just lets me know, like, there are untapped depths of, like, wisdom, ability, greatness, riches that most of us have not tapped into. Even people who have money, right? If you look on social media, everybody has money nowadays, right? You're seeing young people able to utilize these platforms to build wealth for themselves. And some people are doing well. Like they have the big, big homes and the fast cars and the jewelry and the private jets. But it still lets me know like there are still levels and depths that we haven't really tapped into. Right? And for the people who haven't achieved those things, it's still that should be even more motivation. Like, yo, there's something I haven't tapped into. And yeah, when it comes to wealth and riches, right? Part of that is luck, right? Circumstances are different. Some people have more resources or whatever the case may be. But when it comes to achieving greatness, like for me, it lets me know that there are certain things that I haven't really tapped into. And like when I think of the brain is like the universe. Like when you ever look at like space, it's just this wide open black pit of untapped real estate. I feel like the brain is the same way. Like think of everything you store in your brain. Like a lifetime of memories, a lifetime of conversations, a lifetime of emotions, a lifetime of relationships. And like you never seem to have enough. Like it's like or you never seen around the space. You never seen around the space. Like you continue to be able to pull in information, pull in content, pull in, conversations, pull in information, it never stops. It never stops. So like, why are we limiting what we can do with our mind? Right? Because it's proven that it's a never ending playground of possibilities. Wow, that was dope. A never ending playground of possibilities in the mind. So if you watch The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls documentary, there was a part in there where they spoke about like Michael Jordan finding motivation. And he would just make up stories. Like he would look at somebody and be like, "Oh, I don't like the way his shorts are. I gotta drop 30 on him tonight." Or this guy looked at me wrong. The guy didn't even know Mike was in the building. He just happened to look in the direction and Mike thought he was looking at him. Like random, weird, goofy stuff. But he was able to unlock new levels of his mind to help push his game to new levels, right? To help push his game to heights that he had never done before, to help motivate him for that night. And it, like, you watch these things and some people are gonna think it's silly, like, oh my gosh, like he was just doing the most. But he was like, no, he was pushing his thoughts into a new gear, right? He was digging in the sandbox, since we're talking about playground, but he was digging in the sandbox of his mind and like finding new treasures each time and every time. And he just needed a reason. Like he just needed a reason, like that's self-motivating. But it lets you know the power of the mind. Like just he was just able to think of a reason which sparked action. And that action produced amazing results. Night in and night out. Right? So like your thoughts are like your vehicle. And you just gotta pour gas into it and give it fuel. And then once you give it fuel and you get it revved up, like it just goes and goes and goes. And I think it works the opposite way as well. Like, have you ever seen an abandoned house? Like just an abandoned house. No one living there. But over time, you slowly but surely start to see that house decay. Like just, it just falls apart. No one's living in it, no one's messing with it, but over time it will just decay. Paint starts chipping, wood starts to crack, the foundation starts to get flimsy, you know, paint coming off the walls, like things just start falling apart because no one is pouring life into that house. Right? No one is living, giving that house energy, giving that house movement, giving the house a reason to stand. Our minds are the same way. Like when we don't cultivate it, when we don't continue to, you know, pour into it, when we don't continue to give it fuel, like we lose. And a lot of it we lose like on the creative side of things. Like you see, like when you get older, as you continue to grow, like the world constantly tells us like to lose that childlike imagination. So it encourages us to not fuel our mind, with creative energy that we did when we were a kid. Right? Like think about when you're a kid. All you do is pump your brain with like being bold and being reckless and having no fear and with fun and cartoons and colors and shapes and patterns and melodies and sounds, and like you're just pumping so many things into your brain and you're just encouraged to just like live free. And if you ever look at like kids draw or like listen to a kid speak and they come with ideas, they may not be the most formed ideas, but they're some of the greatest ideas, right? If you look at a kid draw, like a kid just draws from their imagination. They don't have any worldly life experience for the most part. Like a 5-year-old, they're just doing. Like a 5-year-old would just like jump off of a cliff because it looks fun. An adult's gonna be like, nah, they're gonna think about like everything that can go wrong. But a kid doesn't, right? Think about when you color. Your mind automatically tells you to color within structure. All right, color within the lines. Don't press down too hard. But a kid, no, a kid just goes. A kid just does, and then whatever happens, happens. And a lot of times it's really, really good. We're trained to think like, oh no, a kid did that and it's not that good. But no, a kid, like kid art, like my nephew, like I have art on the wall from my nephew. My nephew is 7 years old, and he's one of the greatest artists that I've seen, like drawing. And I'm dead ass saying this. Like I'm not just saying it because it's my nephew. Like he's one of the greatest artists. Like just the way he puts his thoughts down on paper. Like I couldn't in a million years think to draw the way he draws. And a lot of what he draws are like faces, and he'll see people and just reinterpret it. But the way he does it without any limits. He does it without a second thought. Like there is no structure. He just does. And then it's this amazing like Basquiat level art that he puts out. And I know at some point in time the world is going to try to tell him like, no, your line shouldn't be that way. The nose should be straight, right? The hair should look like this, right? The world is going to try to stifle his thoughts. But right now all he's doing is fueling his mind through cartoons and through the things that he consumes without a second thought. And then it's pouring out in this amazing art that I hope he can hold on to. And that's like us as adults. But what we do as adults, like we do everything possible to not continue to build our mind up. And you know why? Like I think the reason it happens because it's free. Like think about it honestly. If someone gives you something for free as opposed to you having to work for it or pay your own money for it, you don't really care for it the way you should care for it. I mean, like if you like keeping your stuff nice and neat, I mean, you might care for it a little bit, but after a while, you're gonna be like, well, it was free. Like I might even just give it away. But like when it's something that you worked for, you pay your hard-earned money for, or you built with your own hands, like you covet it like it's a child. But like our brain, it comes standard with every package. Like everybody gets one. And I think that's why we don't protect our brain the way we should. We don't continue to grow and develop and fine tune it and tune it up like we should. We do it with our cars, we do it with our clothes, we do it with our homes, we do it with our relationships, we do it with everything. But the one thing with the most powerful thing that we possess. Like our minds are literally the most powerful things that we possess. Everything, like literally everything that makes up our physical life is a result of what happened in our mind first. Like literally everything. The clothes you wear. I want to dress like this. I want to buy that. I'm going to go do this. This happened in your mind first. Ooh, this girl, this guy, this person. I want to be with them. In your mind, you're figuring out how can I be with them? And then it manifests. Now you're with them. The car I drive, the career I'm in, where I live. Like everything started in your mind. If you're rich and successful, there was a moment you were sitting down and like, this is the life that I want. I want this. When you didn't have anything and you took your mind and your imagination, mixed it with action, and you manifested the life that you have now. If that's not power, then I don't know what is. Like that's Superman, superhero, next level power. That's on some like Magneto times a million. This thing that we have in our head that comes for free, like it changes the world. Like it literally changes the world. Once again, it lets you know like there's levels to this thing because there are some people who've realized like with my mind I can manifest anything. Anything is possible. Anything I want, anything I want to do, anything I want to accomplish, I know it's possible because I can think it. And if I can think it, I can put action behind it. If I can put action behind it, I can make it come true. Crazy. But what we do though, we work in reverse. I heard this from a pastor, but he's actually a I guess a public speaker. He's a business mentor. Um, so he doesn't just operate within the church, like he operates in the business world as well. And he says something that was so profound. And when I heard it, Like I was at the gym and I almost fell over. He said most people give up their bodies, then they have their heart played with, which causes them to lose their mind. And I'm like, yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Like, we're all victims of that. Like, let's think of like relationships. Let's just think of relationships. A lot of times, what do? We get physical, right? Because that's what we're naturally attracted to. We see the physical. We give up the physical. And then when it doesn't work out, our heart gets broken. And when our heart gets broken, now we're stressing. Now we're stressing. We're depressed, we're going through our spells of eating bad and we're talking bad and we don't want to come outside and our world is just over. And you see this happen with especially with young people. I mean, it happens with older people too, but you see it with young people too, especially when they start having sex early. And then our minds just go crazy. But like what we have to start training ourselves to do is we have to start manifesting with our mind. Because everything starts with an idea. Then we have to permeate that through our heart because we have an idea and then we believe it in our heart. And once we believe it in our heart, we can take action with our body. Like, this is how you make dreams come true. This is how you walk into a life of greatness. This is how you walk into a life of riches and wealth. This is the 3-step process, right? And then once, you get to the action, of course, there are some actionable steps and items. But once you manifest it in your mind, the plan starts to take shape instantly. And once that plan starts to take shape in a clear and concise manner, that's when you believe it in your heart. That's where that conviction comes from. You're like, okay, I know this is what I'm supposed to do because I see it so clear. So by the time you get to the action part, now it's just all about execution. As long as you have a little bit of will, a little bit of ambition, like the journey is going to be easy. And like when I heard that, I'm like, yo, have I been doing this thinking thing the wrong way? And once again, there are levels to this. There are levels. I mean, if it was easy, everyone would be rich. Everyone would be driving in nice cars and living in nice houses. Everyone would be thinking about going to space. But it's levels. It's levels to this. And so when we talk about, all right, so now say your mindset is like, okay, I understand the power of my thoughts. I understand that anything that I think can become real. I think now at this point, we got to start doing some auditing of our life. And we got to start doing some auditing of like what enters. Because we know how powerful this is. We know that when we nurture this thing, we know that it can move mountains. So now, this is where we have to start auditing and managing like the people that are in our lives. Right? Getting rid of the toxic relationships, the people that actually mentally drain us. Right? The negative relationships, the negative conversations. We have the negative media, right? Because what comes in is going to come out. What you feed your brain is eventually going to find its way out into your physical world. Yeah, it's cool now to watch the reality show, this, and that, and the fighting and the gossiping, and yeah, but if that's all you're consuming, that's what you're going to eventually become. I think that, something that a lot of us don't really recognize, and I've probably fallen victim to this, and I'm a super, like, understanding the power of your thoughts. Like, I've seen my thoughts produce good things and bad things. I've seen me being able to harness my thoughts and control them and put myself in the driver's seat. I've seen my thoughts control me and control my life. But I think a lot of us don't realize, like, our thoughts and ideas are actually living things, right? Like, our thoughts produce tangible results, like real things. Like, they're like, our thoughts are like organisms that never stop working. Like, our thoughts have real power. Think of someone who's like a serial killer. Like, they convince themselves that they're going to go murder somebody. And I know this is extreme, but I feel like I have to go extreme though to really show you how powerful your thoughts are. Like a serial killer plants the seed of I'm gonna go kill someone. This is what they believe in. So now they start thinking of the ways and the methods that they're gonna go about doing it. And then they put it to action and then they go out and kill people. And then they tell themselves, okay, I'm gonna do it again. And they tell themselves that they like it. They go do it again and then they do it over and over and then they become a serial killer. That just shows you the power of a thought. The power of a thought. And how like if you don't have control over your thoughts, how they can take over you, right? Like negative thoughts are like a fungus or like weeds. Like it gets to a point where they almost become uncontrollable, where there's nothing you can really do. Like when a fungus decides it wants to spread, you're not just gonna get a regular household cleaner and wipe it up. No, you really have to call an expert in. And a lot of times you have to like cut out the entire area to really kill the fungus at, you know, kill the root of it. Or like with weeds. Like you can't just cut it. They're going to continue to grow. Matter of fact, on the side of my house, and this is why I thought of the weeds. We had weeds growing up the side of my house and then wrapped themselves around like some electrical components on the side of the house. And I tried to pull the weeds apart and they were strong. Like I couldn't just yank them because if I yank it, it would have yanked the electrical component. So I had to go get scissors and I had to just cut the weeds all the way down. And I know that there's a possibility when I go out back out there in a few days, if I don't get to the root of it, they're going to continue to grow. And this is just these are how negative thoughts are. They're the exact same way. And yeah, you'll slowly but surely try to flush it out, but they're going to continue to come back until you actually go and snip the root. You have to go in and snip the root, and the further you get away from it, the harder it's going to be to really kill the root of a negative thought, to where it's going to feel like it's impossible. And then that's where we enter counseling, and that's where we have to go seek help from someone else to help reel us back in and snip the root of that negative thought. Like thoughts are real powerful things. Real powerful things. Thinking and having the ability to think, the most important thing in our lives. It's the most important thing and the most impactful thing that we can do. Nothing is more important. It affects every single decision that we do, good or bad. Every decision that we make starts with a thought. A single thought starts with planting a seed, and that seed ends up bearing the fruit of that initial thought. That's crazy. That is crazy. Like these are conversations like we have to start having. Even if you're having it with yourself, like every day, like evaluating the health of your thoughts. Like mental health. Just think mental health, contaminated thoughts. Mental health is just contaminated thoughts. Just contaminated thoughts. Like what we were just talking about with the root. Contaminated thoughts that have to be rooted out. Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe you've thought about this. I haven't. And I'm kind of like mind blown just talking to myself right now. Like, yo, this is crazy. Like just the thought of thinking about my thoughts is mind blowing. That's crazy, yo. Yo, I've been here like I'm really like mind blown from myself right now. I don't know if anybody else do that, but yo, like this is crazy. This is amazing. I'm gonna listen back to this myself and be like, yo, you was really out here like giving some. You're really out here spitting bars today, bro. Like really, really out here spitting bars. Yo, that's wild, bro. That's super duper wild. You know what this makes me think of though? I know it's got my like serious voice on. It does make me think about like the hood. And okay, yeah, I am specifically speaking about black people right now because I know how great we are. I know, like, I truly believe black people are the flavor of the world. We're the most beautiful, the most talented. This is just me. Like, I just love being black. I love everything about being black. And that's not like to down or think down on anyone else. Like, I love everyone. A lot of my best friend is Hispanic. You know, some of my best friends are Asian. You know, some of my close colleagues are white. You know, I have great relationships with every race like you can possibly think of. But I just love being black. I love it so much. I love the ups, the downs, the negatives, the positives. I love everything about being black. But it does pain me when I go into like all black neighborhoods or like you go to the hood. It pains me because just generation after generation after generation after generation, you see the same things. You see the same bad conditions. You hear the same about like crime. And trust me, when this is we're not gonna have a black on black crime conversation. We know crime is, based on proximity. We know crime is based on a lack of resources, education, food, jobs, all that. So we're not getting into that conversation at all. That's not where this conversation is gonna go. But I do want to talk about us not fully protecting our neighborhoods. I mean, gentrification in every black neighborhood across America is like running wild, like a wildfire right now. And, you know, having family and friends that's grown up in neighborhoods, I know we've lived in these neighborhoods for 40, 50, 60 years. And we haven't always done our part to protect the neighborhood, right? To make sure the property value was, kept at a certain standard, made sure that, our parks were safe for our kids, make sure our schools were safe, making sure that our elderly were safe, making sure that the black owned businesses stayed open, that we respected them, that we honored them. Like, this is something that, I think about a lot. Like, man, like Jewish communities thrive, right? They protect, they honor their neighborhood. Like Asian communities, Asian American communities, like thrive. They honor, they protect. Like every city you go in, they have a Chinatown, right? And they have stores, they have pharmacies, they have restaurants, they have every basic necessity need to where you don't have to leave. They have banks, they have lawyers, they have everything to where you don't have to leave your neighborhood. And you see a lot of, especially Asian Americans or Asians who move to America, they go to those neighborhoods and they thrive without even having to learn the language. They thrive in those neighborhoods. And it's like, wow, I wish we can have that. And once again, I know there are certain systemic things that are in place that have prevented us from having those things. But, I'm just looking at the parts where we can take accountability for our actions, because everything can't be blamed on the system. Everything can't be blamed on the system. We've seen too many examples of black people prospering, walking in their purpose, making a better life for themselves and their kids and their family and their future generations. It has to be a mental thing. It's spiritual, but that's a whole nother conversation. But it has to be a mental thing. I think mentally we're trapped in poverty. I think mentally we're trapped in destruction. Because a drug dealer isn't going to across town. Granted, I know it's harder to get across town, but we're still making a conscious decision to say, okay, I know I can't just go to the other side of town and sell drugs. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, I'm going to get profiled. I get it. But you still say, I'm going to sell drugs to my neighborhood, to the people that live in my neighborhood, no matter how destructive it is. I'm going to sell drugs, kill, steal, and destroy. And then I'm going to take these kids and I'm just going to continue to feed them into the system. So when I'm gone, someone else is just going to take over. And there's going to be a repeated cycle. You want to talk about mental issues? That's all. That's what you call mental issues. Right? That's what you call mental health issues, excuse me. Like that root is so buried into the soil. I want to jump back into the book. There's a passage that as I'm speaking, I was looking down at the book and I noticed it said, the mind is eternally at work, building up and tearing down, bringing misery, unhappiness, and poverty, or joy, pleasure, and riches. The mind is never idle. It is the greatest of all human assets, yet it is the least used and most abused. But the part that it says is constantly building up and tearing down. Like for generations, We've been mentally building up and tearing down our environments. But I think we've been mentally building up and tearing down our inner self, which manifests into the tearing down of our environments. And I wish I had a solution for that, right? Everyone's not going to hear my podcast. Everyone's not going to see shining examples of Black excellence and want to follow that model. A lot of people don't even think that that's possible. They think that those people are anomalies. And I don't know what the solution is for that. But just something that I wanted to touch on. But just to show you the power. Because on the flip side of that, you see like the royal family in England. One family that runs the country and have been doing it for centuries. One family have never known poverty. And I'm pretty sure at this point in the game, they don't even think that poverty is even an option. It will never happen. They're never going to relinquish that power. Once again, we know there's systemic things. We know like mentally, they know they're going to always be in control. Have we bought into the idea like this is all we have? Have we bought into like we'll never get out of this, so why not just live in it and let it continue to be our reality? I don't know, man. I don't have the answer for it. It's just something that I want to talk about, and I don't have, and it's probably not even the right conversation. I don't know. Maybe I'll cut it out. I don't know, but just something that I wanted to speak on, because it once again, it just shows you the power of your thoughts. Like the power of your thoughts can have you in mental prison for generations. But on the flip side of that, the power of your thoughts can change generations for the better. The power of your thoughts can change the tax bracket for your next 50 generations. Look, man, I know we can go on and on about this. Like, we didn't even get into like ideas turning into dreams. Like, I told you I did you a disservice. But we didn't talk about the mindset that it takes to truly live an excellent life. We didn't talk about the power of our thoughts. And that should have been the first conversation I had with you guys, because everything the Disrupt or Die mantra is built on is having the mindset. It's all a mental exercise. That's what it is. It's understand that our thoughts have power. Our thoughts have influence. Our thoughts attract people, opportunities, lifestyles, everything. Everything starts with a mind. Everything is mental. Everything is mental. It's all about recognizing that when our thoughts are focused on a desired result, we can manifest that thing. We can turn it into a physical thing that we can hold, that we can live out. It's about understanding that if we fail to control our mind, we fail to control everything else around us. It's the one thing in our life. If it gets out of control, if we lose grasp of it, our whole life will crumble and fall right behind it. Once again, it's the most powerful tool that we possess. And the Disrupt or Die mindset is built off of that. It's understanding how great this thing is that we get for free. That comes standard with every package. So I just leave it like this. We all have the capacity to think, right? We all have the capacity to express our ideas, and we all have the capacity to choose our own thoughts. And the thoughts we have the capacity to change the world. Are you ready to change the world? Yeah.